service offering online interactive workshops to young people from Croydon and Sutton. We are aiming to do SkyCast weekly on a variety of issues, so please keep an eye on our What's On page, and that will keep you informed on our up-and-coming SkyCast. So also please spread the word to friends and family, especially if you feel like they would benefit from any of the topics we are planning on doing. And before we start with today's session, we just need to do a few introductions. So firstly, I'm Chantel, and I'm a counsellor at Off the Record. I also work at our Sutton service, which is called Jumpstart. And part of my job now involves running the SkyCast sessions. I've only done 2 or 3, so please bear with me, and I'm sure you will notice me cheating by referring to my notes every so often. This is so that I don't miss out anything for you all, and also to make sure that I don't fall over myself with my words. Okay, so let's do a quick tour of our SkyCast. In the presentation area, which should be the main section in the middle, you'll see it should say welcome right now. I hope that it does. Just above that, at the top of the screen, there is an I Need Help Now button. Just because of some of what we will talk about today, it might bring up some difficult feelings for you. It might bring up strong feelings that might leave you feeling like you do need help right now. So if you click that button, I will try to message you privately, or I might send you a message after the SkyCast. My peer facilitator, Rebecca, is going to post a link in the chat today. This has a link to helplines and websites that you could have a look at if ever you feel that you need to get some extra help. You'll also find the video section, which should be in the top left screen, and you should see me. And under that, you have a list of everyone who is present in our SkyCast today. And I will bring us to confidentiality in a minute. So, like I said, just under the attendee list, there is a statistics button, and there's a smiley face. And if you click that, you'll have a few options to help you during the SkyCast. At the bottom, you have a chat box where we can all talk to each other, and that's in the far right, actually. So why don't we do that now? Why don't we let's introduce ourselves and say a bit about how we are feeling about this subject and how we relate to this subject. And welcome to you all. So hopefully that little introduction gave you a better idea of how the SkyCast session is going to work. Feel free to add comments in the chat section as we go along, and Rebecca will be keeping an eye on the chat and responding to you as well. And I'll be asking you questions just to check in to see where you are and get your feedback on a few issues. And sorry, I didn't let you know before that. What I will do is might ask questions or put suggestions to the group, and then I will turn off my webcam and my audio. So I don't want you to panic and feel like I've disappeared on you. Okay, so let's have a look at some of today's aims. The session today will be for about an hour, and we're planning on focusing on the topic of peer pressure and finding your inner voice. So the aims of today's session are, firstly, to look at peer pressure and help you know if you are experiencing it, to look at practical and positive tips that can help you cope, to help you to know your rights and feel more assertive, and to give you a space to let your feelings out. People will take you seriously in this SkyCast session, and it's important for you to know that you can share as much and as little as you want. I don't want you to feel like you have to contribute. Next, we will look at confidentiality, as I mentioned earlier, which I think is a really important thing to cover. And we all really do need to agree on a few things before we go forward. So firstly, it's important that we agree that everything that is said and done in the session is confidential, and we won't discuss it with anyone outside of the session. Number two, we all agree to listen to each other and give people a supportive space where they can let their feelings out. Three, we will treat each other with respect, take each other's views seriously, and do our best to try and understand where people are coming from, even if we disagree with something they're saying. And four, that we all agree that we are entitled to share as much or as little as we want. There is no obligation to say anything during these sessions, but also if you want some time to talk about your situation, that's okay as well. Okay. So we have done the confidentiality agreement. So to get started, let's think about peer pressure. Let's chat for a second, and can you tell me your definition of peer pressure? Can continue chatting while I'm presenting, just so that you know. Okay, so let's have a look at a definition of peer pressure. Childline say that peer pressure is feeling like you have to do something just because your friends are doing it. So that's actually very similar to what we've said in the group, isn't it? And what I would like to do now, I think it would be quite interesting to see how many of us feel that we have experienced peer pressure. So let's do a poll. If you could all kindly fill this out for me. It shouldn't take very long. I will leave it there. I think one person said that they wouldn't like to respond to that, which is absolutely fine. But as we can see, peer pressure is very common. In a way, it's a natural process because we learn things from people around us, and this can be really positive. For example, we might try to be better at a particular sport because we are surrounded by great players. However, the problem is that sometimes we can feel influenced or pressured by people to make decisions that we don't fully agree with, because we worry about the what if we don't do what they say, what happens if we go against what people, what the majority of people are saying. So I'm going to play you a video. I think it's a good video which explains how peer pressure can be both positive and negative.
Peer pressure is something that starts now and can leave scars for the rest of your life.
Having someone shove drugs in your face.
Not being able to say no.
Or that you're not cool enough.
Come on! You do something for other people, but you don't want to do it for yourself.
If a friend wanted to say, hey, here's a cigarette, you should smoke it, and you're like, no, and they're like, yes, it's cool.
Kind of sucks, especially if you're not strong with yourself, and I don't know, it can ruin your life.
Peer pressure is something that leads you away from the person that you really are.
It's a problem that we don't do anything about.
God, she's coming.
Do you think she'll do it?
Yeah. Hey, Carly, come here.
Yeah?
We want to ask you something.
Yeah. What?
Do you want to be in our band?
Yeah.
You have the best voice ever, it's phenomenal.
It'd make our band
really
way
is.
better.
Amazing.
Please.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone. What doesn't kill you makes you fighter. Footsteps even lighter. Doesn't mean I'm over, 'cause you're gone. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I wonder if we can, as a group, think of some examples of how someone might feel peer pressured into doing something. And feel free to give your own personal experiences of peer pressure as well. So let's think of, like I said, examples of ways in which we can feel peer pressure or be peer pressured. Okay, just while the chat is continuing, we have come up with some really good examples. I think one would also be, the feeling of needing to lose weight or gain weight, or to be a certain shape or size. Wearing clothes that fit in with your friends. You might feel the need, you might feel pressure to bully others because people around you are bullying others as well. I know certainly with me, bunking off school was one that I had when I was at school. And I think, like Janae had said, sometimes having a boyfriend or a girlfriend or having sexting, for example, those are all examples. If you can think of anything more or elaborate in the chat, please do. Often when people aren't aware that they are being peer pressured or influenced, often people aren't aware that they are being peer pressured or influenced. Sometimes it can be implicit, so hidden under the surface, indirect, and sometimes it can be more explicit, so directly, if you don't do this, this will happen. What kind of feelings, let's think about feelings, what kind of feelings do you think peer pressure is likely to bring up for someone, or what sort of feelings has it brought up for you in the past? Let's chat. As we see, when we are experiencing peer pressure, it can evoke a lot of really complicated feelings. You might feel confused, conflicted, and as well as being pressured, we might feel anxious. We mentioned fearful as well, lonely. So at times it can be really hard to think clearly and see ways out of the situation. And it can be easy to think about someone else and try to give them advice, as often as we find it easier to help others than help ourselves. So I found a clip from Mean Girls, actually. This is about peer pressure and the rules that we might have to live by in order to fit in.
Having lunch with the plastics was like leaving the actual world and entering girl world. And girl world had a lot of rules.
You can't wear a tank top 2 days in a row, and you can only wear your hair in a ponytail once a week. So I guess you pick today. Oh, and we only wear jeans or track pants on Fridays. Now, if you break any of these rules, you can't sit with us at lunch. Well, I mean, not just you, like any of us. Okay, like if I was wearing jeans today, I would be sitting over there with the art freaks. Oh, and we always vote before we ask someone to eat lunch with us, because you have to be considerate of the rest of the group. Well, I mean, you wouldn't buy a skirt without asking your friends first if it looks good on you. I wouldn't? Right. Oh, and it's
Okay, so in that short clip, we can see that Katie is being peer pressured into acting a particular way. So let's together think about what sort of things Katie might be able to do in order to cope with this situation. What tips and advice give someone in this sort of situation? And let's think about tell us how you think you would react if you were in this sort of situation. Okay, so thinking about Katie gives us an idea about how we might become victims of peer pressure. If we think about her situation, she's in a new environment, so she doesn't know the social norms. She wants to be accepted by everyone, and she's scared of what will happen if she says no. So I could just say that it's very normal to want to be normal and to conform to the social norms around us. Part of this is that we are social beings and we need to be part of a social circle. I believe Janae actually mentioned that earlier. We can benefit from the ideas of learning from others, and this is the positive side of peer pressure. However, part of this peer pressure is also about wanting to be accepted, and we all have a fundamental need to be accepted. So difficulties with peer pressure can often it can often come from a deep-seated inability to accept ourselves and accept who we are. To overcome this, not only do we have to learn to have the confidence to find our inner voice, we also need to be happier with who we are and who we are as our own person. We have to be our own people, basically. So there are lots of ways that we can build our confidence. One important step is to try to adopt a positive outlook. Focus on the things that you like about yourself rather than things that you don't like about yourself. So the science bit, let's talk about science. Think about what is worse, to be the person who goes along with things and then feels guilty about them privately, internally, or to be the person who doesn't go along with things and to risk everything, risk being ostracized. Both are really difficult situations to handle and both come with emotional costs and risks. Scientific experiments show that the one person can really make a difference with peer pressure. So science shows if one person steps up and questions and sows the seed of doubt, this can give others the confidence to question too. This can be a daunting task, but can help to give you confidence in your ability to find your inner voice. And there are lots of other people who might be silencing their inner voice too. And the video I play you next is actually a really key example of what I was just explaining. I'll play that for you now.
What if we told you that you could get people to say and do things that they didn't agree with?
Sounds good.
To agree to things that they knew were wrong.
Like it.
And in the process, lower the quality of their lives and the lives of others around them, sometimes even catastrophically so.
All right, now you got me. It sounds terrifying, doesn't it? But the fact of the matter is, it happens every day. In fact, you do it every day, and you're subject to it every day.
The best way to understand a phenomenon like this is to try to recreate it in a laboratory.
What we're about to show you is a very simple experiment inspired by renowned social psychologist Solomon Asch. And it will reveal this shockingly common form of mind control.
We sat 7 teenagers around a table and asked each in turn to answer a very simple question.
Which of the 3 lines does this object match in length? Now, it was obviously line C.
Now here's the intervention, the trick we're testing with this experiment.
The first teenagers are Confederates. They're in on it. And they were instructed to give the wrong answer, A.
This answer was so obviously wrong. But what would the actual person who was not in on it, the one the experiment was designed to observe, what would they say?
Any questions? A. 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 A.
A.
He gave the obviously wrong answer. What a pushover!
Well, a pushover, but in good company. The surprise here is he's not the exception, he's the rule.
A.
About 2/3 of any group, independent of age, goes along. Regardless of gender, background, most of us are suckers. Social influence is a potent power. So here we have a textbook example of this deceptively simple form of mind control. We got these teenagers to consciously ignore what they knew to be right.
And we could have gotten 2/3 of you. Remember, so don't think you're above it.
Oh, not at all. In real life, think of how many smart people have made stupid decisions because social forces overwhelmed their better judgment.
There are benefits to following the crowd. Relying on group wisdom is cognitively efficient.
And often cognitively superior. We are social learners and derive great benefit by leaning on the judgment of others. Even when a subject spoke their mind, it was torture to do it. Watch this girl's face. Social influence is a powerful thing.
C.
So the question becomes, can we get more of the benefits and fewer of the costs?
What if we replayed the same scenario with the teenagers and added one person, just one, who expresses polite doubt to the crowd?
I guess I saw it different because it looks like it was C to me. Maybe I saw it differently, but I think it's C.
I might see it differently, but I think it's C.
C. What about you? C.
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 C. C.
C.
C.
C.
Astounding! 95% now express their true opinions.
So here's some BS you can use. What's the point here?
It's the power of one. We have an innate fear of being shunned by valued groups. When you feel like you're the odd person out, don't stifle your concerns. Simply express them respectfully. It turns out this small dissent can provide powerful permission to the silent concerns of others.
Yes, you don't have to risk being an outcast in order to test your concern. You don't have to scream and yell. You don't have to call others names. The quiet, polite expression of doubt can turn the rest of the group from zombies into thinkers.
I'm David Maxfield.
And I'm Joseph Grenny.
And that's all the BS for today. Subscribe to our channel and sharpen your behavioral science skills with our latest videos and updates. Click here to subscribe, where we always promise to share some BS you can use.
What are the advantages of working as a group?
First of all, I think we're social animals.
Okay, I actually really like that video as an example of the ways in which we can feel peer pressured without actually being conscious of it. I know I for sure find it difficult, and I would probably be similar to the children who would just conform and say, you know, whatever everyone else is saying, rather than speaking up, and when it is so obviously not the truth, you know. So anyway, another thing that can help to deal with peer pressure is to feel more confident about our rights and our ability to say no. So, on the screen, you'll see a shortened version of our human rights. I'm just going to take a minute to read them out to you very quickly. So, your human rights. You have the right to life, right to not be tortured or treated in an inhuman or degrading way, right to be free from slavery or forced labour, right to liberty, to a fair trial, to not be punished for something which isn't against the law, right to respect or for private and family life, home and correspondence, right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, right to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly and association, right to marry and found a family, right not to be discriminated against in relation to any of the rights contained in the European Convention, right to a peaceful enjoyment of possessions, right to education, free elections, and the abolition of the death penalty. Okay, so let's have a chat. I want to know for you, what stands out for you there? Are there any of these human rights that you feel are particularly important to everyone, to yourself? Do you relate to any of them particularly where you felt your human rights have not been held in any situation you've been in? Yeah, let's have a chat about that. Okay, thank you for that. It's actually quite an interesting perspective, as Sally said. So, if we have these rights and we have the right to say no, how can we feel more confident and assertive in our ability to say no? So, as you can see on the screen, we have tips for assertiveness, and these include practice what you want to say first, or try writing it down, act calm and confident, make eye contact, say what you want clearly and politely, get someone supportive to give you moral support, and one that I think is hugely important, don't apologise for asking for what you need. What are your thoughts on these? Okay, so we're coming towards the end of the session. So to end the session, let's think about the three main coping techniques for dealing with peer pressure. The first one is accepting yourself. So working on building your confidence and feeling more positive about yourself. So that is, like I mentioned earlier, thinking about the things that you like about yourself, the things that are really likeable, and maybe you could speak to friends and ask them to remind you about the likeable, good things about you, rather than focusing on what you feel are the not so good things about you. The second one, which as we have realised in our conversation today, is really important, it's knowing your rights. So feeling able to assert yourself and knowing that it is your human right to not be pressured into doing something that you do not want to do. And thirdly, finding your inner voice, practicing and using tips to find a way to be the one person who expresses a seed of doubt, just like in the video of the classroom. If you speak up, if you put yourself forward and speak up, that might help other people to follow and, you know, speak up if they agree. You can be their voice and their encouragement. And it would also help, so just to add to that point, when you see that someone else is stepping forward and being a voice for other people, for you to be open to that and, you know, to accept and be open-minded when they express that seed of doubt. Before we end, I just want to ask you, if there's one thing that you can take away from today's session, what would it be? And if you feel that you experience peer pressure, what could you try? Or if you know someone who is experiencing peer pressure, what would you say to them? So all that's left for me to say is a big thank you to everyone for attending today's session. Your contributions have been very valuable. Thank you so much. It's been great to hear your feedback. I mean, it would be great to hear your feedback on how you think the session has gone. So on signing out, if you have the time to complete the feedback form, it would be really useful, and it will automatically enter you into the prize draw to win an iPad mini. Go for it. Also, sign up, have a look at our What's On page, where you can sign up in advance for the up-and-coming SkyCast sessions. And if you sign up in advance, just to let you know, you'll get a reminder email closer to the time. So don't feel if you sign up now, you might forget about it. No, just join us. Just to let you know, next week, Thursday, there's a session on understanding depression. And between February and March, we have a variety of SkyCasts on, like understanding gender, self-harm, coping with loss, managing anger, lots of different subjects. And also, lastly, if you feel you need more information or help with any issues that you are dealing with, check out our Off the Record website. There are lots of useful links and useful help pages on there. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you again, and have a good evening, and I hope to see you soon at another SkyCast. See you later.